Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. According to the Lord's word, we tell you that we who are still alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will certainly not perceive those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangels, and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. Thank you for joining us, Pearls with Veronica. Thank you for tuning us on Tuesday night at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us and share the file. I'm Jerry Rose Live Worldwide, and welcome to Positive Power, WXI Christian Media.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Pearls with Veronica. I pray each of you had an amazing day. Pearls with Veronica is a podcast based on the transparency of our grief and loss process, and also life adversities, and how we have and are living forward in our purpose and passion. Before we start tonight's episode, let us give thanks, glory, and honor to our God for an opportunity to be a vessel on this platform, to use our voices and experiences to empower and help your people, oh God, to know and understand that it is in you we breathe, in we live. Oh God, we acknowledge you in all our lives and welcome your divine direction in our lives. In your name we pray, amen, amen, and amen. I'd like to thank Jerry Royce and the Positive Power WXI Christian Media family for this platform. So let's get started. Welcome to the wild side of storytelling, where we empower young Black and brown babies to fall in love with themselves. My guest tonight is a bilingual storyteller with the wild belief and true passion that our stories, the stories of Black and brown children, do matter. Luz Maria Mack was born in Villa Mella, Dominican Republic, and migrated to the United States as a young child with her family, and was raised in Inwood, a community in Upper Manhattan, also known as Washington Heights. Luz comes from a very loving and big family that is a recipe for laughter and lots of beautiful memories. Luz is happily married and is the proud mother of 3 beautiful children. Being a wife and mother to her children has indeed inspired her to write books and bring forth all the beautiful things that her creative soul can conjure up in an easy-to-read book. Luz earned a master's degree in public administration from Metropolitan College of New York and works as a healthcare professional in New York City. Good evening and welcome, Luz.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting our invitation. How are you this evening?
Oh, I'm good. It's really hot over here in the Bronx, so I'm hoping you have cooler weather.
No, we do not. It's hot as well.
I know.
It is hot and humid.
Yes.
No breeze. I don't feel any breeze tonight. None.
Yeah, the AC is just... I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the air conditioning is not even working as well as I wish it was. I'm still fanning my face.
I was just saying to myself, is it the weather or am I just hormonal? Is it a combination of two?
Oh, the joys.
Yes, the joys of being a female, a mother.
I know.
And welcome to womanhood.
Thank you. Had it 3 times.
Me as well, myself as well. Is there anything you like to add about yourself?
Well, I feel like I want people to know when they hear the type of person I am, like, a person that wrote books, went to school and has a family. I also want people to know a person that's trying, a person that made tons of mistakes, but still trying hard to live her passion. Because I feel in society, we never really kind of focus on the mistakes. We focus so much on the grandeur. So I really don't like when a title or an accomplishment gets in the way of the behind the stories. And I always kind of try to let people know, like, this is real too. Those mistakes were my resume builders.
Right. And that is, that is true of everyone. Our mistakes and the things that happened in our past, it shapes who we are today. How did you get your start into writing?
So, it was really inspired by my middle daughter. She was in this private school when she was 3, and she was the only child that was like half Black and half Hispanic, and a group of kids that happened to be from, Caucasian or just like white-looking community. And for her, it was like very daunting. And for me as a mother, I was kind of like, I didn't think about it. I was just like, oh, she's in this great school making friends. But she really felt like she stood out. And she couldn't quite verbalize that. So one day I picked her up from school and she asked me to dye her hair blonde. And that's when it like really took me aback, It was just kind of like that moment, like, wait, you want to be blonde? Where is this coming from? And, I was just trying to just make the connection. And, she kept saying how all her friends were blonde and everyone, is lighter feature. And like, she was focusing on that. And it was so weird for me because I feel like a lot of females, when they have children, we're reliving a lot of our childhood insecurities with our kids in a different way, in capacity. So I remember being so distraught by her feelings because I wanted to make sure she felt beautiful and, loved and embraced her curly hair and know more of why she looks the way she looks and how I wanted her to appreciate that. So I remember going to school the next day, kind of like really concerned, talking to a teacher that happens to be Hispanic in the classroom, some of the things that my daughter Chloe was saying. And the teacher was, making a very keen observation, like, there's not a lot of kids that get the opportunity to go to these private schools that are from our communities. So the way we could empower them is, telling them stories about our families. And she was really focusing on me taking an opportunity of showing pictures of kids that look like her, or even telling her about family members, like making it a very personal connection. So I remember for a period of time, I would do like storytelling at home. And I grabbed my 2 girls. This was before I had my son. And I will tell them stories about their late grandmother, stories about funny family stories with my sisters, like, us getting in trouble or things like that. And then it started being stories about like some of my fond childhood memories in the Dominican Republic. And then they could relate to that for some reason. And they were like really intrigued. And then I took it a step further and talked about famous people that look like them, that come from African American communities as well as Latino communities, and even people that don't come from Latino and African American communities, like Indian culture, and just taking it there to show and celebrate so many different in personalities and individuals that accomplished so many great things that started from humble beginnings. So that was what happened that kind of planted a seed in me, saying like, let me put a book together to really bring it home so she could see how I look like as a child and some of the things I did as a child. So I started writing this book called Pequeña Maria, Little Maria. I made it bilingual so she could it take like this extra feel of our home that sometimes, we speak in Spanish even though my kids aren't fluent, and sometimes we speak in English, and the families that look like our families. So to me, it started at home, this inspiration, and it was really to show my kids who I was like as a child.
Right. Because I was reading about Pequeña Maria, who's
Yeah.
which translates to Little Maria. Being like you say, being birthed from your daughter realizing, hey, I'm different from my classmates. They have vanilla skin, they have blonde hair and blue eyes. And of course, if you have like natural curly hair, you're going to stand out, and you're brown. Your mom's Dominican Republican, your dad's African American, so you mix them the two. You got this beautiful brown baby. Yes. And you're standing out like a sore thumb, but I'm not a sore thumb. I'm unique. I'm beautiful. We've got to teach our kids, to love themselves in the skin that they're in. We have to teach them when they're small, to love the skin that they're in. And I just, love how you encourage her, by letting her know that her hair is beautiful, her skin is beautiful, her eyes are beautiful, and love the skin that you're in.
Yeah, and I kept telling her, like, the way she looks is not just out of, like, that came out of nothing. Like, you have your mommy's eyes, you have your dad's skin, you have your grandmother's lips. Like, I kept showing her pictures. Like, this makeup that makes you, it comes from all of us. It's like a blend from all of us. And I think when she saw the grander story of who we are as a family, that kind of helped her and made her feel very center of who she was. Obviously, now, since she is a young girl, she is 10, so now she's almost walking into the teenage years. So I know this is not going to be a one and done. I'm going to always be teaching beauty and our family traditions in different ways so they could embrace it.
Yeah, I can relate to that because my youngest daughter, Olivia, is she's darker skinned than my two older children. So when she was younger, I would always tell her dad, who he's deceased now, and I would always tell him, I need you to, tell her that she's beautiful. I said, because right now the community that we're living in, is predominantly white. She may get called something else outside of her name, so we're gonna have to prepare her and let her know that she's beautiful. I say, little black girls and sometimes say, oh, you're just dark. You too dark to do this. You're too dark. No, you're beautiful. And I taught her early on to appreciate and love who she is and the skin that she's in. Love your hair, because she has very thin lips, but she's darker skinned, have a very fine pointed little nose. And I, like with you, I showed her pictures of her dad's mom. You have her skin tone, you have her nose, you have her lips. Yes. Because I have more of the Indian features. My nose is a little fuller. My nose is a little. My lips are thicker. So it's just that the differences that make up, that makes us, make us unique, and as community and as individuals. And I just can imagine, like you being born, like brown skin little girl, and now a woman. Imagine you having the same identity issues as your daughter. Did you encounter that? And if you did, how did your village help you to love on you and appreciate your Dominican heritage?
So it's interesting because I grew up in Dominican Republic when I was young, but even when I came to this country, I was like in, Washington Heights, that it's traditionally known for Dominican culture. It's predominantly Hispanics, and you do have people from the African American community and other communities like Mexico, from other Latino countries, and as well as Ecuador and Puerto Rico, and the list goes on. But there are differences, right? Even though we're
Right.
embracing a lot of these things. So my mom reminded me when I was going through this phase with Chloe that when I was young, I was really upset that I didn't have green eyes like my mother, because my mom is, you know, very fair skinned and she has light eyes. Although her hair is curly like mine, she does appear whiter, and it's
Right.
passed by a whiter person. The only time people could tell she's not Caucasian is when she speaks. Like, you could hear the accent and, other mannerisms from her culture. So she told me that there was a time that I wanted to have light eyes so bad. So my mom, being the silly woman that she is at time, played a trick on me and said, if you eat all your vegetables, your eyes are going to go from brown coffee to green eyes. You're going to be so bright as the grass. And I believed her, and I ate all my vegetables. I mean, like, unfortunately, she did teach me something. I did learn to eat my vegetables because of this,
Vegetables.
but it didn't turn any brown from green, and I was so mad. And she kept telling me I wasn't eating them fast enough. So it happened for months until I realized my mom is tricking me. Like, this is she's pulling my leg here for a long time. But after, before long, my mom was always letting me know how beautiful I was and how she wished she had things how I look like my skin color, my coffee eyes, and my height, my body type. But it was hard as a child because no matter how
Right.
many times you hear someone say you're pretty, or if it's your mom, you're like, well, you're my mom. You're supposed to say something nice. You're thinking that, but you don't want to say that out loud. It just takes a long time to embrace yourself. And I think not only here in America, in Latino culture, there's a lot of colorism. Like,
Mhm.
kids that look lighter are treated in a different way than kids that are darker. And you see it in the
Right.
media. I mean, that's the biggest, I think the media is
The
the biggest,
media
yeah, like
propaganda.
indicator. Yeah. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember growing up, the Gerber baby was always white with
Yes.
that cute little blonde bold head. It was
Mhm.
only till recently, till now, being like, I say a vieja, like an old woman, that I see the Gerber baby finally looks like a child that I could be my niece. It could be,
Right.
from my family, from my community. But that was never accepted. And I remember having this conversation with my daughter. I had never seen a child that looks like us on TV growing up, and not in Dominican Republic, not in America till recently. And I know this is so many people pushing for this. So I keep telling them how important it is for us to push our stories, because it's important to have a diverse collection of stories from people that are real people. There's a lot of beautiful stories from everyday people that we're not sharing with the world.
No, we're not. We're not. Does your children know that they are the reason and the why as to why you write and create your books?
They do. They really do. My daughter Chloe, the one that wanted to dye her hair blonde, she actually wrote her first book the beginning of this year. She wrote like a little comic book that I helped her, and we're so proud of her. And she realized now,
Congratulations.
yeah, and I helped her self-publish, and we're working on turning it into an animation. Um, my oldest, she likes to sing and rap, but she hasn't really committed to writing a book. And my
Right.
son, who's 7, he is actually a little upset at me. So this is a big tell, because he's been asking me to write a book with him forever. But for me, it's just like timing. But I have written notes and I have shared lines with him, and he's corrected me. At 7 years old, my son is letting me know how to pitch his ideas and how to tailor his story so I could capture his authentic voice. So I think it's really
Right.
interesting how my journey has inspired my kids as well to think about their gifts. But at the same time, I'm just trying to let them be kids and just kind of like play with this idea because I really wish when I was their age, I had an opportunity to have someone not like me, but someone like better than me, I say, that is in the creative space to teach me all the things I wanted to know. And I learned on my own.
Trial and error.
Yeah, a
Lots
lot of
of
trial and
trial
error.
and error. And that, and unfortunately, that is how it is a lot of times for um the black and brown community. Creating our ideas, getting things pushed into mainstream America for us to get our voice, for our voices to be heard, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um, because of the lack of opportunities, and a lot of times there's a lack of opportunities. And I just love how the community that you're with, they you all work you know tirelessly to promote the culture in a story, in story form. I love that. I love
Oh,
that.
thank
and
you
and
so
tell us
much.
about your animation. Let's talk about your animation.
Well, to be honest, I never in my wildest dreams thought I was going to be animating the books I wrote. It was
Uh-huh.
really my husband, and I want to say when I first wrote my first proof of concept of Pequeña Maria, Little Maria, I remember it was my birthday, and we did an escape the room challenge, and I was with my siblings, and he was just like so proud I had self published a book. And at this point in time, the book was out for a couple months. It hadn't done much, and I didn't know what I was doing. It's safe to say I was in the weeds still trying to figure it out, right? So
Mhm.
it's my birthday. We're at this like uh this little restaurant called Bonchons, which like they buying some wings, and all of a sudden everyone is just wishing me a blessed birthday. And my husband goes, yeah, and next year my baby's going to be showing her books on TV some way, somehow. So he kept pushing this idea. And I'm like, I don't know what this man is talking about. So he just kept pushing this idea. And then he kept saying, like, you could probably make this into a cartoon. It's beautiful enough it could be a cartoon. So he kept planting that seed in me, and
Mhm.
for some reason, he talking about it made me start talking about it. And I remember I was talking with, and I always say everything happens for a reason, and you meet
Mhm.
everyone for a divine purpose. I
Exactly.
was I was at this local TV station here in New York City about to promote my books. And at that time, I was really nervous. It was going to be my first, like, kind of like live appearance for 3 minutes, but those 3 minutes were really nerve wracking. And the producer um, had not let me know, like, the questions they were going to ask, but that wasn't the
Mhm.
point of the story. The point of the story is that before I went, there was the woman that went on the show, and she was calm as a cucumber. She had no clue what was going on, but she was like, "I got this." So I fell in love with her, like amazing presence. When she finished her 3 minute slot, we connected after mine, and she was just like such an amazing individual that we just started bouncing and sharing ideas with each other. And in one of our conversations, I said, I wish I could animate my books. That's like kind of like my end goal right now. That's a
Mhm.
project I'm focused on. And she's like, I could help you. And lo and behold, she connected me to the right individuals that helped me make my dream come true. But
Wow.
it took a whole year, that process, because I had no clue. I was reading on it, like I really didn't know what was going on in my head, like how was I going to make this happen. I didn't even know the right people or connections, but I'm the firm believer that God really planted that seed in my husband, and he just kind of kept directing my paths until I met the right person.
That is wonderful. That is so wonderful. During the pandemic, excuse me, you
Sure.
employed or used college interns to promote literacy and education through social media. Explain that to us. Let's talk about that.
Sure. So during the pandemic, I was, right now I don't have any interns, but during the pandemic, what happened was that I was sitting on these conference calls, and at the beginning of the pandemic, one of the individuals that suffered the most come from high needs communities in the Bronx, and I live in the Bronx. So that kind of really struck a chord with me, because it seemed like, and I really don't like saying this out loud, but it just seemed like a lot of those kids, once it was a pandemic and they had to turn to virtual learning, it's like education stopped at home. Not probably for all of them, but for a good majority, it was like they were
Right.
falling through the cracks. But for some reasons, kids have access to social media. And it was like they didn't make an education the priority, but they were making social media the priority. So I had this idea of trying to get college interns to promote something educational in bite-sized content, even if it was 2 minutes or a minute. Because the truth of the matter is, employing like a student to do like a lesson plan online was going to be like something I couldn't do. It was like really expensive. It had to be targeted, and it had to be planned. So interns do have a lot of like techniques and specialties in certain things, and a lot of them knew how to use social media in such a crafty way that I was able to hire so many of the students to do art projects, science, promoting books. And for the kids that promoted the books, I was like in love with the material they were promoting, because the goal was they could only promote Black and brown authors, like
Right.
undiscovered voices. And if they were self-published, even better. But obviously books that were, fit a certain criteria, so we could do our due diligence of recommending books that kids or places did, like libraries and other educational facilities wouldn't know about. And it turned out that a lot of the students that promoted books, actually their videos were liked so much that the books were incorporated in a lot of classrooms that I didn't know about till people send me messages. And I was really excited about that. And that was something like I was just so happy about. And one of our students got accepted into Hunter based on the internship. So I was just like, I was just like overjoyed to see like such a humble thought did all of this good. It was just such a great thing. So I did that for a while, and I was so glad about the students we have. They were just great kids wanting to make a difference.
Wow, that's wonderful. I know that my granddaughter with their kindergarten class, I love how they always had a section set aside, for because the school that she attends is predominantly Black, and they're always promoting things, like to help them with their self-esteem and to be proud of their Blackness. And what I also like, one of the things I liked as well, and in reading your bio and the different things, that you've done, for the Black and brown community, is how they incorporated. They would have this, it's on YouTube. What they would do, most kids can relate to a rap, a song.
Yeah.
And they would do certain things like their sight words to a song, storytellings to a song. And they even invited a young lady here. Her name is Baptiste. she's African American storyteller, and they had her to do one. But I think Darius was dealing with, I think it was either a spider, I think it was a spider, and it was so interesting. And I love how they even had like a, and you probably could do too, like a scavenger hunt. They had a Zoom scavenger hunt, and it was so wonderful. Just broke up the monotony of just sitting in front of the camera all day.
No, yeah, I've seen those.
1+1. And the scavenger hunt was so wonderful. Can you find a book that has this on it? Can you find this with this on it? Can you find a heart-shaped item in the home? So it was really, really fun and interesting. And I enjoyed it.
That's really entertaining.
Yeah, very entertaining. I saw where you were reading, and I know this is like off topic a little bit, and I saw it. I was like, oh, my daughter read that book, and it is by a poet. Oh my God. Oh, I just had it on the tip of my tongue, and I always make notes, and forgive me for Milk and Honey.
No.
Milk and Honey by Rupa Carr. I was like, I thought Olivia was reading this. She said, "Mama, this is so good." I haven't had the opportunity yet to read, but she thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yes, I love poetry. So my daughter, my oldest, her name is Andrea. She's 15. Obviously, she's not reading children's books like for grade, like primary grade. She's reading more like a sophisticated book levels. She wanted to read that book. So I've been reading a lot of the books she's reading. And sometimes I make strong recommendations for her to read certain books, but she really loved this book. So I read it with her. And the author, it's like a collection of poems, and it's like really beautiful. Like it evokes so many emotions. I think the beautiful thing about Milk and Honey is that it reminds you of feelings you had when you were in love, when you were forgotten, or when you go through trauma in such a creative way. But I think what really inspires a lot of people to pick up her book is just like how simple her poem is. Like it's just so real. It's not like Shakespeare, when you're reading these hard poems that you're trying to understand and relate to. It's a brown woman from a different culture writing her truth. It's a hard truth, but you understand it. I mean, like one of her poems that I loved a lot was just like how it doesn't have a title, I don't think, but if I could paraphrase the poem, is like how she loves this man so much, but she knows she can't have him, so she savors the feeling like she savors coffee. It was just like such a clever way of describing someone you want and can't have, but you still long for them. That's the author herself. She's just like very impressive. And I always say, if you want to write, you have to also be lost in reading a lot of different books from a lot of different diverse voices, so you could kind of learn your storytelling mode.
How do you find ways to fund your projects, and in what ways are you advocating for your community through the arts?
Ooh, so let me take a deep breath for that one.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Because I was just talking about this morning. So a lot of authors, if they're not through a publishing house, they self-publish their works. And I remember when I had this idea of writing a book, my husband was all aboard. So it was truly a family affair. Everyone helped and put together to help me make this dream a reality. So I've been writing now for a little bit more than a couple of years. I want to say a little bit over 3 years, of maybe 4 years. And now I'm working with a publishing house. But it took a while. And there's a lot of parts of my projects that I work on that I still self-fund. I tried doing GoFundMes. I tried doing other type of crowdfunding or applying for grants. And it was a hard process because it's me in the mix of so many other wonderful creatives that have limited funds, that believe in their ideas, and they're trying to bring their dreams into fruition. So unfortunately, I've gotten creative and learned to do things with limited funds, but I really do commend people when they go through this journey, because it's a hard journey to do on your own. But it's also very beautiful because you inspire a generation of storytellers. And that's something that keeps me motivated. And if I could share one tip to people that are doing this kind of work that I am, is that save, like in a jar, in a mason jar, every good note that you receive from someone, whether it's a DM, whether it's an email, whether they call you and say, great job, I love this. Save it, write it down, and put it in a mason jar. And on your toughest days, pick out those notes from the mason jar and read them out loud. It is just such a fresh reminder of why you're doing this.
Wow. I know in and on my journey into widowhood, I started a grateful jar for myself. And I did, because you're grieving and you're mourning, and, life is happening for you, and life is happening to you, and life is happening around you. So I didn't want to stay stuck. And I was, I ask God, okay, what ways can I, show that I'm grateful? So then it's like, get a grateful jar. So one morning I woke up about 2:00 in the morning. I was just going through stuff in the garage. I got to find this jar. I know I got a vase in here somewhere. So I found this big vase. It's a clear vase, and in it, it's about halfway full. So that's how grateful I am. So, and what I do is I go back and I look at the things that I was that I'm grateful for. Well, like you said, you put in those happy congratulations,
notes and messages.
Great job.
Yeah.
The notes and messages in the mason jar. You go back and you read those things, and that's what I do periodically. When I feel that little feeling coming over me, that wave of grief coming over me for Reginald, I'll reach into the jar. I have it designed where I can just walk into the bedroom, reach over to my right, and pick up a piece of paper out the jar, and I'll read something on it, whether it was a scripture, whether it was a thought that was given to me, like you said, whether somebody said something nice to me, like you're doing a very, very good job. And I'm learning to accept compliments from people telling me that, I admire your walk, I admire your journey, because you are stronger than you think. And I'm like, well, I haven't done anything great. That's me. I haven't done anything special. And like, but you really are, because it takes a lot to do, to come on this podcast and talk about, adversities, grief, and loss. You're transparent with it, so that you can reach people and say, hey, this is me. This is me. I'm real. I'm honest about it. And I just
thank you for sharing that, because
you're welcome.
Because you understand, you get it. It's a tough thing to put yourself out there. It takes a lot of emotional bravery, and while life is happening to you, you're still trying to manage the stress of life and like get your goals done. Because I remember one thing, I was telling this to a friend that I was helping through a tough time. While I was pushing along my projects, I was dealing with, taking care for a family member that was suffering through mental health, and got hospitalized in the mix of that. There was one point I was unemployed and still pushing my goals. And like those things happen, and funding a project unemployed as well. And going through more than just one change in my life, my husband had at one time had to work 3 jobs, and that was insane. And we have 3 kids, and it was just a lot to manage at the same time. But I always found it that regardless of the adversity and how crazy life gets, the way was always provided. I didn't stop wanting to work any less on my projects because I kept thinking, like, I had this emotion and these feelings that I wanted to put it down on paper, and it's resonating with many people, and for a reason. And that's what made me not give up. And I think for me, like, this year has been a blessing that it's kind of like soothed my soul a lot. Seeing my daughter Chloe write her book, it's almost like it made me happy to take a little bit of a pause and a break on things, because I'm like, hey, I think they're getting it, you know? Sometimes, the blessing might not be a big house, a big car, all these finances, but these beautiful lessons that you leave on the kids.
Yes. I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine. We were talking about, the pandemic and slowing down. And we were also just what you just mentioned about how people think blessings are always in the cars, the house, and the money. But it's all, to me, it's those little things. It's those little blessings that mean so much to me. Like yours is what Chloe writing her book. Like, okay, she I love this. She's getting it. Here it is with your 7-year-old son wanting to get his. My boy, he wants his voice to be heard as well. So it's just so encouraging to see that, we're like seed planters. We're planting the seeds, and we're seeing the seeds coming to fruition through our children. It's just so amazing, and God does what God's want to do. He gives us the visions. He tells us in our book to write the vision and make it plain. I'm like, so. Sometimes we don't listen. Sometimes we do listen. I know I haven't always listened, and then God will come right back with it again. Just something came back to me about 2 weeks ago that was mentioned to me 6 years ago, and I was walking down the steps this morning, and I said, God, this was mentioned to me 6 years ago by somebody else, and then I'm hearing it again 6 years later. Like 2 weeks ago, I said, okay, God, if this is what I'm supposed to do, you show me what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to move my feet in the process, but you open the door for me to do what I'm supposed to do for you in this, while I'm moving my feet. We're seed planters. We
So
planted the seeds, and I just love it. How can we help you learn more about your work and share your work?
I think something I share with a lot of people and something that brings me a lot of joy is see individuals share my work over their social media platforms as well in their schools. Like if they're parents or if they have young children and they're sharing the work in schools, because the truth of the matter is that there's a lot of rules to get our books, and I say our books because I'm not talking about just my book, but a lot of self-published writers that are Black and brown, our books are not the first chosen because a lot of the school systems, they have to go through this Common Core requirement, and unfortunately a lot of the books that they pass for Common Core, they don't look like our kids, or they don't come from our kids' backgrounds, because I'm not sure who's making the decisions, but the decisions come from the higher power of like a board that have to sit down and say, like, these schools pass for literacy, these books pass for language, these books pass for that. And for some reason, a lot of the books that are used are antiquated. So even introducing something new is a challenge. And the reason I say this to say I have bilingual books, I've had Spanish teachers say this is perfect to teach or get the kids excited about Spanish and they can relate to. Or I even presented it at a school where like all my kids are Dominican and all of them are from here and from there. So they relate to this culturally and they're speaking in Spanish after they see this. But again, it's not just one school, it's many schools that would benefit from having these books and these resources. But I really wish parents could know about it, just like take a look at it, and if they love it, if they could share it with their schools, because that's how we get our books in the system. That's the only way, sharing that information forward.
And can we buy these books in bulk?
Yes, definitely.
We can purchase
I
in
use
bulk. Okay.
usually I what I do is if people buy it in bulk through my website, they reach out to me. There's like some deals for bulk deals, or if they want something at a higher number, like quantities of like more than 100, and they reach out to me, we could work something out. I do try my best to make sure that the books get there at a certain time, because let's say if you need a book from 2 weeks from now, it just takes some time for the distribution to get that together. But I do everything to make sure we're helping individuals get the books to them, and I include stickers and other little resources, and even do a Zoom call so people see that I'm a person and answer questions, because I think I get excited when kids get to speak to me, because they can ask all the random questions they want, and no question is bad. They're so honest, like, why did you write this? Yeah. Or my favorite's like, are you making a lot of money? Like, that's my favorite. Like, kids ask everything. But they need those opportunities to speak to someone else that looks like them and is doing these things of like books or writing songs or artists. Like, they need those experiences. They need to see these professionals that come from their backgrounds, that look like them, talk about these fields, so they could get inspired to want to think about that.
Right. That is so beautiful. You know, in our closing tonight, I want to like to make this declaration to, our Black and brown babies is, I will always stand tall no matter what. No is not an option for us, because we believe we deserve an opportunity to share our craft with the world. That is what Lutz said. No, it's not an
Thank
option. You. No, it's not. And I loved it. I was like, oh my God, I love this. Because that's something I always taught my children. No, it's not an option. You can get a no, but somebody eventually going to tell you yes. My oldest daughter started a bangle. She did it as a hobby. She was doing it as a hobby at first. Now it's a small business for her. Her bangle business is a small business for her now. Tonight, she was setting up her website and everything. I'm like, oh, go, Mama, look at this. Check out the wording, and make sure my wording is proper for my website. And I'm like, I'll go on in about 15 minutes, okay?
That's so sweet. But I told my kids, just because someone doesn't find value in what you're doing doesn't mean that there isn't value. Because when Chloe wrote her book, there was a part of her that was kind of scared to share her work. She was almost like pseudo embarrassed because she was scared if people wouldn't like it. And then when she started getting so many like accolades from her classmates, her teachers, as well as other parents, and even a review on Amazon that someone picked up the book, some random stranger, she was like, oh my gosh, I'm a better writer than my mama. And I'm like, yes, you are. And I want you, if this is what it takes for you to believe in it, yes, you are. But it took her a while to get there, to get to this moment of like, I'm good at this.
Right. And like you, we are here to, inspire our children, every day to go after their dreams. That's what, I do. I'm always encouraging my children. You can do this. My son, he's like, Mom, do you think I should? I always said, well, have you prayed about it? Have you talked to God about? Is this something that you need to be making? And I know that sometimes you need to move quick, fast, in a hurry to do certain things. So, now there are some things that are coming in fruition for him that was spoken into his life. I want to meet about 6-7 years ago that is coming into fruition. Now, just because it didn't happen, it may be delayed, but it's not denied.
Yep.
That is so I always say, it's a reason, and everything is timing with God. Everything is timing with Him. And we, like you said, we don't meet people by accident. Our encounter is not by accident, because I'm looking here and I'm like, oh my God, like Jade, her whole school kindergarten year via Zoom, was about, the Black and brown kids. And here is something that, I can give to her class. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I love this. I'm going, I can do this. And my daughter said, here, you go shop with me. And I'm like, well, I said, well, it's for the children. I like to read.
And you know what's so interesting? I learned this after I wrote my book. So certain schools have a budget that they could use that they don't have to go through the board.
Wow.
And that means in that budget, of course, it has to be reported. Like if it's notebooks or resources for the teachers or whatever. And then some of that, the money could be used discretionary for their library. So I'm surprised that at times, I've heard this from teachers, and I'm not going to say the schools now, that they don't even have an option to use that money, because there were so many opportunities or missed opportunities that kids needed books for reading and things like that they didn't buy it. Remember, we just got in a pandemic over a year ago. Many schools did not have an online library. So when we went in a pandemic and everything was virtual, there were some kids, and unfortunately in our communities, kids of color, that were lacking so many resources just to continue their education at home.
Wow. I know the school system here, if I'm not mistaken, I know I can speak for Jade's school. They had several sponsors, different churches would donate certain things, because a lot of the kids, didn't have paper, pencil. You get on Zoom, I need you to get, teachers asking them to get, we'll get a paper, get your composition notebooks, but I don't have any paper, I don't have any crayons. And you're like, and I'm going, oh my God, like, no, don't say that, but it's true, they didn't have it. So then once the teachers saw that need, there were different churches in the community and organizations that donated crayons, paper, composition notebooks, rulers, when they were learning how to measure, they donated all those things. So, and I'm like, wow.
Well, here they had to donate tablets and computers, because kids couldn't even get on the Zoom. They were joining the Zoom on a cell phone.
Right, and that's what happens sometimes with some of the kids here as well. But they had so many laptops that, were signed out, that were signed out and assigned to the children here, in our county. And some of the kids, like you said, didn't have internet service. So they had the mobile Wi-Fi buses. And I thought that was unique as well, because they didn't have internet at home where I may have the device, but I don't have internet services. And I don't think a lot of people know, they may know it, that I believe Comcast has this thing for, like, if your child is in school or something, you can, you get I don't think you pay a full price for the services or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to misquote it or anything. But, they had that through Comcast. And like I said, as well as the county, the school system here. And I applauded them on that for getting, they even fed some of the children. They were sending buses out to the neighborhoods for lunch. I think they did. I think they do breakfast. I can't remember, but I do know lunch was served. The buses come to the various neighborhoods. Because children are being home, and a lot of times parents were, at that time, okay, we were working here and we got to feed the kids now, and that's not in my budget. And unfortunately, that happens. You gotta choose between, I'm going to pay a bill or feed my children. That's the imbalance that, that's there, that other communities, they don't have to worry about that. And, and that was something that, we, that's life for us that we have to do. And I just applaud the community here in our county for coming together to, to the aid of our children, especially in our less fortunate communities here in my county.
Oh, wow,
I enjoyed our
amazing.
conversations. Yeah, I just say every day, even every Friday they would do little projects where you would have to go to the schools to pick up something. By Wednesday, you would have to pick up a little project, a packet. And I just enjoyed it because my granddaughter said she wants to be a neuroscientist and an astronaut and something. Everything is dealing with NASA. All things science and math with her. So they had to construct something. They had to do a project where they were constructing something. They had to make either a worm or a snake. Hers was a snake. They had to put it outside for the temperature to see whether it was going to change the condition. With the worm, it was like a gummy worm. So it was like this gummy worm. And you see what how the conditions were going to do, or whether or not your house was going to stay in the conditions, if the wind was blowing, if it was raining, if the sun was shining. How was the animal going to survive? These different conditions. I'm like, this is kindergarten, and I love it.
Love it.
And I just love it. And she loves to read, and my grandson loves to read as well. So I think, and my children. So I got the love of reading from my mom. My mom loves to read. So I know that's where we got the love of reading from. Planting seeds and passing on to your children. As we close tonight, I want to just close with this prayer. Father God, we want to be a reflection of the heart you created in us. Please teach us how to view ourselves through the lens of your eyes. Which social media platforms are you on? Tell our listening audience so they can follow you.
So I'm on Instagram, and you can find me under Luz Mack Official, as well as Facebook, and my website, luzmack.com.
luzmack.com. Well, once again, I want to thank Jerry Royce and the Positive Power XXI Media family for this outlet of transparency. I want to thank you, Luke, for coming on, sharing your love of reading and how you started, and your purpose, your reason, and your why for writing these books for our community, for our babies. And I have thoroughly enjoyed, speaking with you on tonight. Having this dialogue with you, about the importance of, community, getting our voices out there, getting our craft out there. Even although some may be independent. Publishers. And I just want to thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good night.
Oh, thank you. It's been a joy.
Thank you. Good night. And sometimes all you need is a little book therapy. Good night, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. According to the Lord's word, we tell you that we who are still alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will certainly not perceive those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangels, and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. Thank you for joining us, Pearls with Veronica. Thank you for tuning us on Tuesday night at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us and share the file. I'm Jerry Royce Live Worldwide, and welcome to Positive Power, XXI Christian Media.
You are listening to Jerry Royce Live Worldwide Podcast.